Hi, I'm Max.
And I'm Calvin.
Welcome to the Halfcourt College Basketball Podcast, where we create and debate weekly top 25 polls and discuss top games of the week.
We'll finish each episode with discussing our top 5 players of the season. We'll get started. We're our top 10. We appreciate you listening.
All right, welcome to episode 2. It's Monday, January 25th. It's like 3:45. The AP poll came out at noon, and so we're going to be talking about our AP polls right now. I got Gonzaga number 1 again.
Yep, Gonzaga's at number 1 for me too. We just talked about this last week.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the Baylor beating Kansas pretty it was a pretty safe win over Kansas. They did pretty good.
Yeah.
Jared Butler looked great in that game, but still not enough to pass Gonzaga, I think, at this point.
Really strong week. They beat Oklahoma State, who's always a fringe-ranked team.
I mean, to be honest, though, Oklahoma State played that. They were up at halftime, so not Baylor's best performance. I don't know if was that a home game for
But
Baylor?
they did end up winning by 15, even without Cade Cunningham. That was not the best win ever, but it was a good week for Baylor. It's just it's gonna take more for them to get ahead of Gonzaga.
Yeah, so I mean, as you can probably tell, I have Baylor number 2, and you got them number 2 as well.
Yeah, Baylor at number 2. Yeah, I mean, there's really no other options.
Yeah, no, they've definitely set if either of those teams lose, I still think they might be 1 and 2. They're just so much further ahead of any other team.
I mean, the issue with Gonzaga losing is any Gonzaga loss is just
pretty bad loss. Yeah.
Yeah, Gonzaga doesn't have an
unless it's BYU late in the season on the road, but still not great. But I don't know. That would be their only loss of the season.
Yeah, if they lose, because BYU was their last game, so if they lose to BYU, it would be at the very end of the season.
I still think they'd be better than anyone.
There's some opportunities for them to lose, and I think still hold second place. If they lose to St. Mary's or something, that's
not terrible.
It's not the worst thing in the world. But they are. Gonzaga and Baylor have clearly separated themselves. I think we can honestly just move on to number 3.
Yeah, I mean, and they don't really have a test this week. They're hosting Kansas State and Auburn, so I think it's going to be 1 and 2 again. And none of those teams are good enough to push them over Gonzaga. So yeah.
Yeah, but then week after that they got Texas, and that's where Baylor can make their move.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
All right, number 3, I got Villanova.
I got Villanova also. Super exciting.
Yep, I had last week I had Iowa ahead of Villanova, but obviously Iowa lost this week, so I think Villanova was a pretty clear candidate for number 3.
Yeah.
They finally came back from, I think they were off a week or 2 because of COVID, but
yeah, they missed their game versus UConn that they were supposed to play earlier. So yeah,
but they had a dominating performance. So
yep, they crushed Providence. They beat Seton Hall. Those are both pretty good teams. I already had Villanova at number 3. I have they have not really just had any bad losses at all. So
yeah, I got at 4 I got Michigan.
Yep, I got Michigan at 4 also.
I had last week's rankings. I had Michigan behind Texas, Villanova, and Iowa. Obviously, Villanova just won, so they stayed ahead. Iowa lost, so that's why I got Michigan above them. But I actually had them jump Texas, even though both teams won this week, just because the more that Michigan wins, the more that the 1-loss record just looks so much better.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Big Ten going 2-0 is actually pretty impressive, especially beating Purdue on the road. Purdue's a pretty good team.
Yeah, Purdue's definitely given a lot of teams fights.
And they crushed Michigan, just rolled them over. We'll talk about our Wooden Award nominees. Michigan doesn't have any, but Michigan's just looking like a really, really strong team with some very high level players.
Yeah, definitely. The depth on that team is pretty insane. Anybody can come in, hit a 3 or make some plays.
And the top 3 is also I think a very talented with Dickinson,
Xavier Simpson.
And Xavier Simpson.
Yeah, I mean him being able to come back.
Not Xavier Simpson. Is he playing right now? I mean, Livers, Dickinson, and Franz Wagner is who I was.
Xavier who am I thinking of? Oh, I don't know. But yeah, that team's insane. All right, number 5, I got Texas.
Yeah, I have Iowa at number 5.
Yeah, so Texas still has some of the best wins on the season. One of their losses to Villanova, the other was to Texas Tech. Both really good teams. So I think Texas has some really good wins as well. They beat Kansas, who's obviously getting worse and worse throughout the season, but I don't know, that's always a challenging. I think they went to Kansas and won that game, and that's always tough to do. So yeah, I just like the Texas basketball team's wins.
Yeah, I agree. They have a really solid win over Texas Tech. I don't think they really have
No, the loss was to Texas Tech.
the loss was to Texas Tech. Yeah, sorry, they have the big win over Kansas and the win and that's kind of what's doing it for them right now.
I mean, they've beaten West Virginia, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, but those
Indiana, who's not a terrible team. UNC's kind of coming back as a better team. They're still a tournament team.
Those are small margin wins, and I don't think any of those are so strong that I think that they deserve to end up over Iowa. Because at the beginning of the season, sure, Kansas looked like they were a top 5 team in the country, and that was a real inner circle contender to beat. But at this point, I don't think Kansas is that much of a higher quality win than anything Iowa's doing in the Big Ten.
You don't think Kansas is a better win than any of the wins?
I'm not saying it's not better. I'm just saying I don't think it's by such a large margin that
I mean, Iowa's best win at this point is beating Minnesota at home.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty solid win. I think that's pretty
Minnesota at home by 15 is not Kansas on the road by 25 or whatever.
I know it's not exactly the same, but I don't think there's it's not. Those are comparable.
I feel like people keep forgetting that Iowa doesn't have a fantastic win yet.
Yeah, no, not a fantastic, but neither does Texas at this point. I don't think any.
I mean, going to Kansas and then also beating West Virginia, who's also a top 15 team.
The West Virginia win, beating West Virginia by 2 is I think Iowa has plenty of wins over Big Ten teams.
All right, Iowa beat Rutgers by 2.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to spout that as one of their top high quality wins.
But I mean, I just don't see a high quality win on here.
But I mean, beating Purdue by 15, I think is more impressive than beating West Virginia by 2.
I mean, yeah, but I just Texas doesn't have a loss that you can look at and be damn, they should have, I can't believe they lost this game. Losing to, who they lose? They lost to Indiana by 12 at home.
Yeah, the Indiana loss is bad, but I just feel that's part of having more playing good teams every week, which Texas isn't necessarily doing.
I mean, Texas in the past 5 games, I mean, not counting the Kansas State. Before that, they played Kansas, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and then before that they played Oklahoma State. I think that's almost more difficult than playing Northwestern and Purdue and those type of things.
I think Purdue's better than most of those teams. A good
West Virginia, Texas Tech, Kansas. You think Purdue's better than those 3?
No, obviously not. But they're better. They're obviously better than Kansas State. They're obviously better than Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying those teams are good.
I think they're better than Oklahoma State.
Yeah, but Iowa's playing teams Northwestern is kind of at that level at this point. They're not that good anymore. But then they lost to Indiana, who's worse than all 5 of those teams. So,
I think Indiana's probably about at the level of Oklahoma State.
I wouldn't say so at all. Indiana, let me pull them up real quick.
I mean, they have 6 or 7 losses. I'm not saying they.
I don't know.
But neither of them are ranked teams. It's not we're comparing to they're both torn. India may not be a tournament team, but they may be one of a sacrifice to the Big Ten's semi-dominance.
I just felt that I needed to drop Iowa after that loss. I mean, I have them here at 6.
Yeah.
Who do you got 6?
Okay. I got Houston at 6.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying Iowa's so much worse than Texas. It's close margin, but I mean, I think Texas is definitely better than Houston. Houston does not have a crazy win. They have Texas Tech. I guess that is.
I think the Texas Tech win is the best win than Texas. I think that's
Texas
the best
just has more wins than
Yeah, exactly. But Texas Tech is getting all the opportunities. I'm not saying that Texas. I think the Texas Tech win is better than anything that Texas has done, and I don't think Houston is they haven't failed in really any opportunity either. They have the really close win to Tulsa.
No, they lost to Tulsa.
Lost to Tulsa. Yeah, exactly. That's their one loss.
Yeah, I mean they're basically undefeated. You can almost think that. But
but they can they did what they had to do in non-conference play, and then
they just don't play anymore.
Yeah, but no one else has really. I don't think Texas has really put themselves on another level besides above Houston, but with any of their wins, and then Houston just kind of plugging along.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can see that, but having to go to Kansas and West Virginia in those 2 games in 2 weeks and winning both of them is impressive.
Yeah, I mean but those are nice. The Kansas one especially is nice. It's just I'm not so blown away by that, the timing of that.
Yeah, no, I know they're not the team that they were. They're not as highly ranked anymore, but still, Houston. I can't get completely behind Houston because they have a cakewalk.
I mean, neither do I. I have it at 5, and I have them at like 6 and 7. Like we haven't gone there yet, but I do have Texas next. It's not like I'm like
Yeah, I got Houston at 7. Like obviously, I don't think they're great, but they're still better than like that's like the level. 7's like definitely a level. Yeah,
these 7 teams have established themselves in the top 7. I haven't looked especially close to the AP poll yet, so I'm not 100% sure if they agree with us.
I think that's what they had. Let me pull it up real quick for us. Here we go. Yes, they have Iowa at 7. So they got Texas, Houston, Iowa. So those 3 teams that we've been debating. That's the order they have them in.
Oh, they have Iowa at the bottom of that. I think that's interesting. I thought Iowa was clearly like a level above all the other like.
I just don't think they have the win to be a level above.
Yeah, but I just think they've been cleaning up like in like. I think they've been doing so well against teams that aren't like at that level. I think that I expect it to continue going forward. Basically, I know they haven't played the top teams in the Big Ten for the most part, but
yeah, I don't know. They've definitely been doing good. Like obviously they're for sure a top 17 in the country, but I don't know. I'd like to see them like have like a resume win. Like if they're going to be taking losses to a team like Indiana, you kind of want a win that stands out just like more than that loss stands out.
I mean, yeah, but like Texas has lost to oh my gosh,
Texas Tech, that's a top 10 team.
Don't they have another loss? The Baylor, I guess.
Yeah, I got Eddie. I got Virginia.
Yep, I got Virginia at 8 also.
Yeah, they're just kind of like up there by virtue of just winning games when everyone else is losing.
And I think they've kind of clarified themselves there. They have the early season loss to San Francisco.
Yeah, they won on the road against Clemson. I think that was this week. No, that was last week. But
yeah, so they didn't even play basketball this week.
They beat Georgia Tech.
No, that's basically say it's not playing basketball this week.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, they barely beat them, but yeah, Virginia's just. I think it's pretty consensus. They're like the start of the next level.
Yeah, when they're kind of like Houston, where they're pretty close to being an undefeated team. They lost to Gonzaga, but can't really fault them for losing Gonzaga.
And then San Francisco one.
The tight loss to San Francisco, which is not. That's a bad loss.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just like one of those ones you can just call a fluke.
Yeah, it's a little fluky, and San Francisco is like not. It's like they're kind of similar to Tulsa, where they're not like the worst team in the world. It's not like they were playing a close game against some horrific team.
It's not like they lost to Townsend, who they played before San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, that's gonna. The San Francisco is always gonna hold them back like 1 or 2 spots from where they should be, like where they will be. But yeah, I think that they've completely flipped their season around,
and they've kind of clearly established themselves as the next team.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep.
I mean,
them
also
out of the top 8 right
they're
now.
like leading the ACC conference, so
yeah, that's true. The ACC is obviously not.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not the best year for the ACC,
but like it just being like the number 1 in your conference always just like it just extra points and like helps you get your ranked higher. Number 9, I got Texas Tech.
I got Ohio State.
You want to go first on this one?
Yeah, so I got Ohio State in the top 10. It was not the best week for Ohio State. I still think it was a positive week. Obviously, losing to Purdue.
Yeah, I had them moving up this week too. I had them ranked a lot lower than you did last week, I think. So
yeah, exactly. So I already had them at 11 last week. Losing to Purdue by 2 is not good, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It was at home, which doesn't help.
And then the win against Wisconsin is big.
Big win on the road against Wisconsin. I think that warrants Ohio State moving up. There wasn't a ton of other teams. Yeah,
it's just one of those weeks where like everyone else is losing, and if you're losing, but like add on a good win, like you're like. You definitely can stay still or move up.
Yep.
I had Texas Tech because
they didn't play any basketball this week. So
yeah, they've got no one.
Nope, no games.
I mean, they're still riding that win against Texas. Like if they're not playing basketball, like that's what they're just gonna go off of. They don't have a bad loss on the season. They lost to Oklahoma State. That's their worst loss, but that's not like a horrible loss. They lost to Houston, Kansas, and
Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor.
Yeah, all really, really good teams.
Yeah, nothing you expect them to win. So, I just think that Texas Tech just was the virtue of not playing this week, so they just kind of inched their way up on a lot of people's rankings, and they have a win that's respectable. and they haven't lost anything that's like absurd.
Yeah, I've been coming around on them. There's just not many other teams that really deserve like a huge amount of consideration.
Yep, and they're I think they in the analytics they're pretty well.
They do well in a lot of the net ratings.
Yeah, KenPom has Texas Tech 13, and then the net right now has them at 14. So obviously, a little lower than what we have them ranked, but like the net still has like Drake, Colgate, and like other teams higher than them that just don't make sense. So yeah, I think Texas Tech is at 9. I feel pretty good about.
Net does love their teams playing in small conferences that don't lose.
Yeah. So number 10, I got Alabama.
And I got Texas Tech, so I clearly did not have much of a gap between our replacements of Texas Tech.
Yeah, Alabama. We completely undersold them last week. Like, we were not bought in. I think. I mean, we're gonna shift to the rest of our rankings soon. So, you want to say where you got Alabama this week?
Yeah, I can pull up Alabama. I got Alabama at 12.
So I think both of us had them in the others considered last week, which was a little rude of us. They've been really good since like their early season like start.
Yeah, so they haven't really like had much of an issue this season. Their worst loss is to Western Kentucky.
Yeah, obviously that's
they
not great.
It was a 2-point loss. I think Western Kentucky is an interesting team. I think they have one of the best players in the country in Charles Bassey. And the rest of the team isn't really all there.
Yeah.
But there's a certain point where your team may just not work. Like, some days just having the best player on the court is going to win you the game. And I think that.
Yeah, and their other losses early in the season were to Clemson, Stanford, both tournament teams. So can't really fault them compared to other teams. And then since that loss to Western Kentucky, they've won. Let me see. They're at 9 straight wins. 8 of which came against SEC teams. So they're undefeated in the SEC, which isn't like a horrible conference. Tennessee is like a good team. Missouri's a good team, and then they killed LSU this week.
They've actually been killing a lot of really good teams. They killed LSU. They killed Arkansas. They killed not Auburn. They killed Florida.
Yeah, that's a good team there as well.
That's 3 really big double-digit big wins. They beat up Tennessee by a good amount, and even though we've been dropped, you can see now we've dropped Tennessee a decent amount.
Yeah. But no, Alabama looks like a whole different team from the non-conference to conference play, and yeah, I think they're just because they like had a good week. They didn't lose to anyone, so they beat LSU handily in LSU, and they. Also beat Mississippi State when everyone else that I had 12 through 19 basically lost last week. So, yeah, I thought Alabama deserved to jump up to number 10.
Yeah, I think they absolutely deserve to move up. And I guess now we're going to move on to who I had at number 11.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about Wisconsin. Where'd you have them last week? So you actually...
I had them at 12 last week.
You actually had Wisconsin moving up.
Yeah, I had Wisconsin move up 1 spot. I think they had a fine week. I don't think it was necessarily a positive week, although I don't think it was a super negative week either.
I mean, you don't want to lose at home to...
No, losing it at home to Ohio State was a bad thing.
Northwestern at home, they have to win.
And they have to win the Northwestern game at home. So yeah, it wasn't a good week. I just didn't feel any other teams that strongly.
I mean, you have them above Alabama. Would you be able to give a reasoning for that?
I mean, I just don't think Alabama. The Tennessee win is really what Alabama is kind of hanging their head on right now.
Okay, what's Wisconsin's best win?
I mean, Wisconsin beat Minnesota. They beat in Indiana.
Those teams are not compared to Tennessee.
They crushed Louisville. I think that's clearly their best win is the 37-point win against Louisville.
But they beat LSU, who I guess we could kind of put in the Louisville range by 30.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. But I think their schedules are I think their wins and losses are very, very similar for the most part, and I just think Wisconsin's doing it more consistently.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't see moving them up this week. Even if everyone else is going, Wisconsin, I dropped them all the way to 17. they have been horrible from 3-point range.
Well, yeah, but that's like just one aspect of the team. I think Wisconsin and Alabama are very comparable teams right now. They both had the bad loss with Wisconsin losing to Marquette early in the season.
Yeah, I just think there's teams that have proven themselves more than Wisconsin since then, or like this week.
Fair enough.
I got as you can see, I got Missouri above them, Florida State, Ohio State. I think Kansas, even though they lost twice, still might be a better team than Wisconsin. I mean, it's like the Kansas to Wisconsin range is like a toss-up, but like I think I couldn't put them higher than 13.
Fair enough. I think the biggest thing I have for Wisconsin above Alabama is I just don't think Wisconsin's losses are that bad. I mean, they have like the Marquette and Western Kentucky losses are, like as I said, basically cancel each other out, and then they've lost to Michigan, and Ohio State and Maryland. Yeah, and I think those teams are all like better than teams Alabama has lost to.
Yeah, but that's 4 losses to 3, and Alabama's undefeated in conference play.
Yeah, but Alabama, like the SEC is just not at the level of the Big Ten on like a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, of course, but like Wisconsin isn't handling games that like you want them to win. Like Wisconsin's been fumbling the bag a bit. They just haven't beaten a top team. They've had 2 shots with Ohio State and.
I think the only real in the Big Ten, I think the only real like fumble is losing to Maryland. Like I think they've established.
No, but I'm saying like a home game against Ohio State. If they're a top 12 team, they win that. You have them at 12. If they're a top, or would you have them at 11? If they're an 11, if they're an 11 team, they don't lose by 12 at home.
Okay, that's just nonsense. That doesn't mean anything. That's just like
no, but that's a win that they should. That's a game they should win.
They lost. I have Ohio State as a 9th ranked team. That's like that is a toss up of a game. They shouldn't have lost by 12, but it's not like losing to Ohio State's like.
I'm just saying, like if you look at, they've had there's tiers for their games. Like the Michigan and Ohio State have been their hardest games. They lost both of those, and then they got like a tier of Louisville, Minnesota. And then like maybe Indiana, something like that. They've won those games, but they just haven't. I just don't think they've had a prove it game yet.
I mean, yeah, but all Alabama's had is beating Tennessee. Like in a real like prove it game against a team that's verifiably like good, all they've done is beat Tennessee.
I mean, I think that's just enough to put them higher.
Fair enough.
Anyone else? You were just talking about your 11 team. I got Missouri at 11.
Yep. So I have Missouri at 15.
I think we were both pretty much in agreement that they definitely should move up a lot. I had them moving up from 20th spot all the way, I had them at 21 last week and now have them at number 12. So I had them moving up 9. You had them at 20, moving up to 15. So I think the win against Tennessee was big for them.
Yeah, the big win against Tennessee. They beat South Carolina also this week, but that's obviously doesn't mean much.
But like the more that it comes, like the farther the game, like when I saw, like they're like only a 2-loss team at this point, and like they're not just like one of those 2-loss teams. It's like getting by. They've beaten.
Well, one of those losses is a 15-point loss to Mississippi State.
Obviously, I mean, Mississippi State's not the worst team, but
I think that's a worse loss than any loss we've really discussed up to this point. I don't think any
more than like Western Kentucky.
I think the Western Kentucky game was close at least, and I think Western Kentucky is better than Mississippi State too.
Let me pull up Mississippi State on the net. Clearly, I don't know how to spell Mississippi. Yeah, Mississippi State's down at 92, so yeah, it is pretty bad.
They're Western Kentucky in terms of Ken Palm. They're 81 and 82 actually. Mississippi State and Western Kentucky. So
yeah, but like Missouri has.
And it was a closer, yeah.
Missouri has had some like wins that like look really good now. Like Oregon's like still like a tournament team.
Yep.
Beating Illinois is always.
The Illinois win is nice. They do have some nice wins.
And then they avenged their like other loss, which was to Tennessee.
They did. It was a big loss to Tennessee the first time around.
Yeah, but they basically flipped it around on this one. They
didn't
win it by as much, but it's still a road win against what was a top 10 team is really good.
Yeah, see, the Tennessee win's just looking less impressive to me right now, and then the Mississippi State.
Well, they're the reason the Tennessee's loss is looking. Tennessee dropped because Missouri beat them.
Well, yeah, that's part of it, but Tennessee also has like they've been like slipping a little bit. Like
yeah, they obviously lost to Florida as well. Yeah, Tennessee. I feel like we were both finally getting sold on Tennessee, and then they completely screwed up this week. Like those are probably the Missouri and Missouri and Florida are probably the second and third toughest people to play in the SEC, other than maybe Alabama. I mean, they've just lost to the top 3 teams in the SEC. That's bad for
It just doesn't look like Tennessee's necessarily the best team in the SEC at this point. Like, maybe they'll turn it around as the season goes on.
Yeah, everyone was like preseason. It was like Tennessee's like, other than maybe like Kentucky, everyone else was also wrong on.
And they're who you would think of in the last few years. They've been very successful. Rick Barnes is a good coach. Like,
yeah, but I don't know. They definitely have kind of shown who they really are, I feel like. So yeah, we both had Tennessee dropping a lot.
Yep. I think that, yeah. So did anything else you want to say about Missouri, or?
I mean, yeah, maybe I have Missouri a little too high. Let me see where the net has them. I think pretty similar spot as well. Not the net, the AP poll.
Yeah, so
AP poll has them at 12 as well. Or what did I have them? 11? Yeah, so AP poll has them at 12.
Yeah, so we don't. It's like we're all in the same. Like, I'm at 15. It's not like there's a huge amount of difference with where we ended up putting them. We have like a couple teams different.
Yeah, you have West Virginia ahead of them. I guess we can transition to them. Or
do you want to talk Florida State first, because they're higher up and they're right next behind Missouri for you?
Yeah, but I kind of wanted to get your opinion on why you have West Virginia over Missouri, because I could see Florida State over Missouri, but I personally don't think West Virginia's. I think they're getting overhyped a bit. So I just kind of wanted to see your reasoning for having them above Missouri.
So they are kind of a team that just hasn't really failed that much. They've proven that they're not one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, that's my thing with them. They've had the opportunities to beat ranked teams, and they've failed all of those.
Yes,
basically.
yeah. They have one good win, which is at Oklahoma State, which isn't even that great of a win.
That's my issue with them. They got one.
Yeah, so I think the reason I ended up with West Virginia is it's just a lack of failure, really. It's just they don't have a single loss that really disappoints me.
So they lost to Gonzaga,
Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. The Oklahoma loss was on the road.
Yeah, I think that's
those are all ranked teams. I know it's not.
They're kind of riding like the Texas Tech path, but like with just not as good of a win as Texas Tech.
I kind of feel like they're in the Texas Tech path. I feel like it's just not. Yeah, it's just not really any loss that I feel that.
Yeah, I guess I could see that as a reasoning for being ahead of Missouri, but like Missouri also has like the reason for being ahead of, like, they've beaten some top teams compared to West Virginia, who's fumbled the bag on every opportunity. Because like Missouri's beaten Illinois, Oregon, Tennessee. Those are all teams that have been ranked at some point, and they like handled Arkansas pretty well. It's just the Mississippi State, I think, is the one thing that's holding them back. That loss.
Yep, exactly. I think West Virginia does need to get a win eventually, and then they've kind of coasted by just not playing basketball in a while.
Yeah.
When they were about to have the Baylor game, they were going to play Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they will play tonight. We'll talk about that a little later in the next section, but
yeah,
they finally have a challenge against Texas Tech. If they can win that, then they'll get shot up in my rankings.
And because they postponed they postponed some games, do you wanna hear who they're playing in their last possibly 8 games?
Yeah, go for it.
They're playing Kansas, Texas Tech on the road, Oklahoma, Baylor on the road, and then Texas on the road.
Yeah, and then they finish off with an easy TC versus Kansas State, but that stretches.
Based on the way the delays of the game, so not delays of the game, but yeah, so they end off on 2 easy teams, but they are going to go through hell for 6 games.
That's a ringer right there.
And then they're playing they have Iowa State to break it up. They're playing Texas Tech and Florida. Not Florida. They're taking Texas Tech and Florida this week. So till the end of the season, or till basically the end of the season, they'll only play one bad team or one ranked team basically.
Yeah, if West Virginia's got to break the streak that they have going, because if they keep it going, they'll beat Florida and then lose to every single other team they play this year. So
the issue, West
Virginia could easily be out of the.
They're about to play 8 games. There's a real possibility they go 2-6 in those games.
Yeah,
3-5.
No, West Virginia could pull off a top 10 miracle if they have a good record against these teams, but they also could just drop to a 10 seed in the tournament.
At the end of the stretch, they could drop out of the tournament. Depends on how the stretch goes for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be impressive, because the AP's got them at 11
but
right now.
But you do make a good point that they haven't proven that they can beat any of these teams. Yeah. If they can't beat any of these teams,
why would they be put in the tournament? They're not going to beat them in the tournament if they can't beat them in the regular season when they're given 2 opportunities.
They'll come out of this with a barely winning record if they're just incapable of beating a top 10 team, and that's not gonna.
Yeah, so that's just why I have West Virginia pretty low. I mean, I don't know. Do you think I got them too low or what?
So who do you have above them? Oh yeah, you have them pretty low. I was pretty down on West Virginia for like I had them at 22 last week. This week I was like, man, they're falling upwards basically. Like
but I just had some other teams falling upwards like over them. Like I had, let me check what I had last week. Yeah, last week I had them ahead of Illinois, but I had Illinois higher in this week's rankings just because like, I don't know, Illinois is just, I feel like you can kind of like assume they're a better team.
They're also doing really well in all the advanced stats. Like if you look at net, you look at civil rating system.
For some reason it might be due just because they're losing to some crazy good teams, but I don't know.
No, not West Virginia is not great. I mean Illinois is great.
Illinois. That's why I boosted them up.
Illinois is 7th in net, 6th in simple rating system, like 5th in Ken Palm. I'm pretty like 7th in Ken Palm. Like Illinois is just.
But like West Virginia's also kind of doing the same thing. They're still 16th in Ken Palm.
But that's lower than. I mean, that's around where you have them. Like they're pretty close to where you have them ranked.
Yeah, their net's at 22. So I just can't see why you'd have them. I just couldn't put them as high.
I do. 13. I think I've given them maybe a little bit too much credit for just not failing. But maybe that. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So let's talk about Florida State, who you have under them.
Yeah, directly behind West Virginia for me and Missouri for you.
Yeah, exactly. So. I think Florida State like has won like some of their better some of their like games that like kind of like West Virginia hasn't done.
I mean, who?
I mean,
they haven't played anyone good. They beat Florida. Like they.
I mean, I think they're coasting right now. They are definitely playing some bad teams, but like they've had like a good stretch right now.
Do you think the Florida win is like much better than beating Oklahoma State on the road? Like
I don't know, but I think beating Louisville on the road by 13 might be a better win than Oklahoma State. Their stretch right now is they beat UNC, who's not great, but they're on the up and up.
UNC,
they went to Louisville.
It looks like UNC is going to ruin my whole not wanting any of the Blue Bloods in the tournament, or not wanting any of the Blue Bloods besides Kansas in the tournament.
No, they might actually slip in. I think they're like at 11 right now or something on bracketology.
Possibly they're 51 in net, 44 in RPI, and you're going to want to get UNC in the tournament. Those are going to do ratings.
Unless they like just go 500. There's probably a way they slip in.
Yeah, if they can
win a game or two in the ACC tournament.
They went 10-5 over the first half. They go 10-5 over the second half. They're probably 10-5 over. I don't know if they're playing exactly that many teams, but if they do the same win percentage over the rest of their games. Anyway, we don't need to talk about UNC. They're
yeah, but so that's a good win there. They went to Louisville, beat them by 13, and then they beat Clemson by 19. Those are some good wins.
Yeah, I'm just not super compelled by Florida State right now.
I mean, you had them shooting up your rankings too, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not. As to why I don't have them above West Virginia, they're kind of in a similar boat where I'm just not really compelled by anything. And I think they have the worst loss to UCF, which is.
Yeah, I think I looked at UCF and they were pretty low on like Ken Palm and all those things. UCF's number 93. They're 3-6 on the season.
They're bad. UCF's a bad team this year.
Being a third of UCF's wins is kind of embarrassing. But if Florida State's making it up later, they're like kind of Alabama, and obviously we'll talk about Oklahoma in a bit because those are the three teams that are really like shooting up the rankings this week. But I think they just got some good wins at like a really good time.
It's really it's the issue with Florida State for me is that they just haven't played a real good team yet. I don't think they played. Well, I guess Louisville's ranked by the AP poll this week, but we're not going to discuss Louisville because neither of us even considered ranking that as far as.
Yeah, so they'll play. They're going to have 3 games against Miami, Georgia Tech, and BC, where they probably could coast through those ones, go 3-0, and then they'll play at Virginia Tech, and then the next week host Virginia, and then host Virginia Tech. So that'll be the prove it time for them.
Yep.
Virginia's definitely going to be like the decider on whether they're a top tier team.
Well, you wanna move on to the next team or?
Yeah. So, we both were pretty high on Oklahoma.
Yeah. So that's the
next team. I think the AP poll snuck them in at like 24.
Yep, they're at 24.
We thought much more highly of Oklahoma.
Yes, so we both had them at 18 and 19 respectively, but you out at 19.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Oklahoma first?
I mean, I feel like we kind of like the same thought process that was like Oklahoma State last week. They just had like, they just kind of, are playing tough schedule, but like winning some of the games.
Well, I mean, they actually do have the big win, which beating Kansas is I still think a big win. Especially if we're talking about a team that's like trying to push into the top 20 rather than a team pushing into the top 5.
And then when they went to Kansas, they only lost by 4, so it's not like in that matchup they
we can they're lost to Kansas by 4, Texas Tech by 2.
Baylor, I mean,
who cares?
losing by Baylor in Baylor by 15 might be a good thing this year.
Yeah, and Xavier by 22 is not great, but Xavier's 10-2 right now. They're a tournament team.
I have them in my top 25. We'll talk about
you do?
them in a
Okay,
bit.
yeah, we'll discuss Xavier.
So then they've got a close loss to Texas Tech, but they've beaten West Virginia, they've beaten Kansas. That's really all they've done, but at this point, those are better wins than most teams down there.
Yeah, they have some real wins. Their losses are all their losses are two of the best teams in the conference for the most part, and Xavier. But again, I'm not gonna really be that mad about Xavier.
Yeah. Just like teams below them, like obviously like Minnesota has like some better wins. We both have Minnesota below Oklahoma, but I think they picked up their 6th loss. Was it this week?
5th loss, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're only at 5 losses.
Okay, but still, some of those are like. Minnesota is kind of a weird team this year where they'll beat like a team like Iowa and Michigan, but then lose to like a Maryland.
Yeah, so there's a few other teams like UCLA is ahead of them on the poll, and we'll discuss them a little bit because I ranked them. I do think they have warranted putting themselves ahead of like a bunch of the 5 losses. Like,
I feel like in SEC or Big 12 teams this year are getting like a boost by just playing in a damn good conference that gives them a lot of good chances.
And when they do get losses, like it's easier to just Baylor's so clearly like
like the losses are justifiable that when you add like some good wins to it, you can't be mad.
Almost every team in the conference is going to play Baylor twice, and they're going to get a loss to Baylor. No team is going to beat Baylor twice this year. And it's kind of
no team might beat Baylor once this year.
Exactly. There's a real chance that no one in the Big 12 beats Baylor at all. There's no way someone's taking 2. Maybe Texas takes it. I don't even know if Texas is playing 2 games against them this year, but they do like just have they are not actually playing 2 games against. That's kind of disappointing. But anyway, there's just not much against Oklahoma, and they have quality wins. So
yep, and the AP poll had them at 24. I'm going to pull that up real quick just because I want to look at who they had ahead of them. They had ahead of Oklahoma, they had UCLA. Obviously, we've like talked about we're going to talk about UCLA in a bit, but UCLA just does not have a win close to anything Oklahoma's had, and Oklahoma's losses are better than UCLA's losses. So I think it's absurd to have UCLA above them.
And Virginia Tech's above them, which
I like Virginia Tech, but obviously they still have bad losses.
We both ranked UCLA and Virginia Tech at 23, but it's not like there's not.
I feel like people just didn't consider Oklahoma up until this week, so that's kind of why they only got like a little bit of a boost in. And then unrelated, but I can't believe Louisville snuck into the top 25 after not being ranked when their week was barely beating Duke at home and then losing to I think it was to Florida State. Yeah, but that's a negative week. That shouldn't boost you into the rankings. I think it's absurd. I don't know who is voting for Louisville at this point. They're like not a terrible team. Like they're considerable, but I just don't know how Louisville snuck in after a bad week.
I don't know what people like about Louisville at this point. Like for the most part, really.
Yeah, they just had like one really good win that just got them like, oh, it's Louisville. Like, and like I feel like people are looking at that Duke win like, wow, good job.
Duke is 5-5 right now.
Duke is not a good win.
I am done hearing about Duke being a team I should care about at all.
Yeah, and their big win of the season that got them shooting up my rankings. I'll admit I was a little over exaggerating on that one. They beat Virginia Tech by 2. That was their big win. Louisville's just not that good of a team. I don't know how they got beat at home by 13 by Florida State and then beat Duke by 5. How is that getting them moving into the poll?
Yeah.
That's absurd to me, but...
I forgot the week you had Louisville at 14.
Yeah, I mean, I've completely flipped the switch on Louisville, clearly, because I'm pissed off that they even got considered. Like, I just don't know how they moved up. Like, that's frustrating to me. Like, there's other teams that, like, had good weeks, and Louisville had a bad week and moved up.
Hey,
Like,
man, I've never been an advocate for Louisville. You don't have to convince me at the very least.
yeah.
Pretty heavy on
So
that.
let's talk about Ohio State, maybe a little bit, just their games, just quickly.
Yeah.
The EJ Liddell is really, like, showing out recently, and Dwayne Washington's, like, kept it up. I think, I can't believe we lost that game to Purdue. That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, the Purdue game was very disappointing. We probably should have won that game.
We could be, like, actual AP poll top 10 if we had won that game.
Yes.
Like, I think there's no doubt we would be. I mean, luckily we got the Wisconsin to, like, flip the narrative, but we could have dropped all the way to 20 had we lost. Or, like, maybe even out.
I don't think. Well, maybe out. I guess that would put us at our 5th loss.
I guess we still had Minnesota ranked, so, like, we probably wouldn't have fallen all the way.
And
up.
and the real poll has Minnesota ranked. Like, I think we'd be
I mean, it did
around
help.
the Minnesota range.
It would have helped that every other team has been horrible this week, but yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that we were able to play a really good game against Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I mean, we played that game really well. EJ Liddell had a great game that day.
Seth Towns,
Yes,
10
that's
points.
exactly what I want to talk about. 10 points. He played 16 minutes. Every additional minute Seth Towns plays is a good sign for our team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think we don't have a star player, but we're a really well-built team. And the offense is performing extremely well. Justin Arms only shoots 3-pointers, and I love that. Like, I'm glad he doesn't shoot 2-pointers because he's wildly unathletic, but he can shoot the ball really well.
Yeah, and we figure out a good, solid plan for our offense.
C.G. Walker
back.
Yeah.
I think he's an important aspect of just, like, making the team make sense.
Yeah, and he's like, everyone was expecting him to come in and just play some, like, limited, like, minutes, just get him into the whole, like, role of things again. He played 24 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And he'll work on, I'm imagining that they'll get him back into the starting lineup eventually, although maybe there's a real possibility that Chris Holtman just really likes the Justin Arns.
Justice and then Dwayne Washington.
Yeah.
Backcourt.
Yeah, starting Arns instead of Walker just to, like, increase the shooting.
Eugene Brown played 9 minutes. I think he played, like, the worst 9 minutes of basketball I've ever seen. He literally he looked like, I saw him dribbling the ball up the court once on one play, and he just turned it over immediately. He, like, looked like he didn't know how to dribble a basketball. So, I hope that the Jimmy Sotos can come back so we don't have to see Eugene Brown again.
I hope they both don't play any more basketball. That's my hope.
That's fair. But,
I hope,
like,
by the end of the
I'd
season,
just rather him than Eugene Brown. Eugene Brown sucks. I hate him.
Fair enough. I think by the end of the season, though, I want Seth Towns to continue congealing up every other backcourt or bench player's minutes until he's playing about 25 minutes a game.
Yeah, no, it would be. I mean, I think we're gonna have a really good, just like, let me see, 7-man rotation with, like, Zed Key getting some minutes. That'd be awesome, because we got Liddell, Arns, Sewing, Young, Washington, Walker, and Seth Towns. Those guys could start on any team. That's 7 people who could be starters.
Yep.
So.
Well, Arns, I mean, he's a very limited player. But
yeah, but he just does what we need him to do. He's perfect for the team.
Yeah. No, I like Arns on our team. I think he's more just a role player. Like
but those are, like, guys who would get, like, significant minutes on, like, a previous
exactly.
team.
Yeah, exactly. I think by the end of the season we should I think part of what Holtman's doing right now is just letting players play. He's letting Michi play. I don't think Michi's really a huge part of our.
Yeah, I mean, Michi dropped down only 3 minutes just because of C.J. Walker coming back.
Yeah. But I'm happy to see him playing a little bit. Like, I'll get him on the court. He should be a part of the future of the Ohio State team. So
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, we got Penn State and then we got Michigan State. So
yeah.
And I mean, if we can stay course, get 2 wins there, then we'll be top 10 team in the AP poll.
Yep, and the 3-point shooting that looked so good last year, that was slow to start the season, is coming back. We're 9th in the 3-point percent. Or no, it's conference. Never mind. Ignore me.
Yeah, but still, our offense is
still, like, even if it looks different.
Number 5 on KenPom.
Ooh, we moved up. Even if it looks different than last year, where we were a heavy 3-point shooting team, it's working really well.
We have a lot of good scorers.
Yeah, we have a strong offense right now. We'll see where this season goes, but I think this team has some real upside. So
yeah, so I say we talk some players now.
Yep, just let's get this going.
So we're gonna do top 5 Wooden Awards again.
Yep.
You want to get started?
Yeah. So number 1, super exciting, Luka Garza.
Yep, nothing's changed to this point. I got Luka Garza too.
Don't really. I mean, we can discuss the stats a little bit. 27 points, 9 rebounds. He doesn't really do much else. 1.7 assists.
But you don't really need him to do
he's
anything
doing it
else.
incredibly efficiently. Just a random fun fact: his player efficiency rating is currently the highest recorded in college basketball. That is only for the last 10, 11 years, but it's higher than Zion's.
Yeah, higher than like Anthony Davis as well.
Was Anthony Davis? No, he's been. How long has he been in the league? You're right. That is probably higher than it. I think that's But that point being, he's his PR is over 40 or almost 42 right now.
Yep, they had only one game this week. They lost, but he had 28, 12, and 2 blocks. So.
Yeah, he's just inevitable. We don't really have much else to say about Luka Garza.
Someone would have to go on like the craziest scoring like streak in the world to pass him this year.
I think it's we've had the same number 2 the last couple of weeks, or last week, but I think there's like some discussion to be had about number 2, and I think that just further illustrates that there's just no one who's gonna come close to Luka Garza.
So speaking of it, who do you got?
I got Corey Kispert at number 2 for the 3rd week in a row, or 3 out of the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I got Jared Butler. When we did a practice podcast the week before last one. And I had him at number 3. Dropped him out for last week, but he's back in. He played a really good game against who was it? Was it Kansas? I think it was Kansas, where he shot like 65%. Was like 7 for 9 from 3, something like that. I'm pulling these stats like out of nowhere, so don't quote me on that. But he had a really good game, and like yes, that team has a lot of good players, but he's like Corey Kispert. He's like far and away the best, or playing the best at this point.
Wait, did you just start ready for Corey Kispert at the end of that, or what was your...
No, I'm saying Corey Kispert's the best, is the clear best on the team of, like, really good players.
Oh, yeah.
But Jared Butler's, like, clearly the best of, like, those good players.
I don't know, actually. I think Jared Butler may have established himself as there being a bigger gap between Jared Butler and the rest of the Baylor 5, basically.
Well, I'm not my argument's not he's this much better than Corey Kispert is better compared to Gonzaga.
Yeah, but I think the reason I did consider Jared Butler. He was in my top 10 of where I ended up. I don't think he ends up deserving it because he's just not doing that. He's just not asked to do that much on the Baylor team because there's so much talent.
Yeah, but he shoots a better 3-point percentage than Kispert does.
Okay, but Kispert's way more efficient right now. If you're like
overall, but also I have to fault him a little bit. He is playing Pepperdine these days. I just can't back it's easy to score on people who like couldn't get recruited to a real school.
I mean, I think there's a difference between. I think if Corey Kispert was just some like 7-foot tall center who was just bullying a bunch of kids who couldn't. But he's just hitting threes. What are you supposed to do? Like it's not like there's
he's not hitting threes more efficiently than Jared Butler is though.
Is Jared Butler shooting 49% from 3 this season?
49.4 or .494.
Okay, fine, but he's like that's fair. But he's doing it on like a half attempt less a game, it's not that huge a difference. But like
but he's doing it in like meaningful games against teams like Kansas, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State, West Virginia. I mean,
Gonzaga has played a pretty strong schedule like earlier in the season. But it's not so. And I don't think Jared Butler's like suddenly like just. It's not. I don't think it's not like Corey Kispert's like it was playing worse against them. Really, he's been one of the best players in the country since the start of the season. Essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I got Corey Kispert I think at number 3. So like it's not a hard argument for me. I'm like not gonna try to argue too much about Jared Butler, Corey Kispert, but I think I just personally I like Jared Butler. I like the way he plays. He's also I think much better defender than Kispert is.
I do. Yeah, I think there's definitely a gap in defense, but I think Kispert is making one of the best offenses in the league. I think his ability to elevate what is already just an absurd offense is kind of I think almost more impressive than Jared Butler, who I don't think is just I think the Baylor team can mostly function without Jared Butler.
Yeah, but I'd say the Gonzaga team would also be undefeated without Kispert.
Maybe undefeated, but I don't think they'd be like right now. No, there's no way they'd be undefeated. They'd be like they would have lost to like Iowa or something, or they would have lost to Kansas. They would have lost.
I don't think so. They still have like a really good front court.
I don't think I like their other players. I like Jalen Suggs. I like Drew Timme. Or is it Jalen? I keep always
it is Jalen Suggs.
And I like Joel Ayayi, but I think Corey Kispert has like clearly established himself as like making that offense a little bit like.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't like be losing anything defensively if you took Kispert out. You're just like losing some offensive scoring that anybody on Gonzaga can pick up.
I think Baylor's team defense. Like I think Baylor. I like him as a defender. Obviously, I don't think Jared Butler's a bad defender. He's a good defender, but I think Baylor's defense is more a product of like who the team's personnel. Like their team was sick defensively last year, and they have like a bunch of strong defenders around him too.
Back to what you're saying about they probably couldn't beat Iowa without Kispert. Kispert had only 13 points.
Okay, yeah,
but
Iowa. Oh my gosh, if you want to pull like Jared Butler's had some bad games too. Like Jared Butler has had some duds. Like
yeah, definitely. But I just think that Jared Butler is more of a two-way player, and that does it for me.
Clearly, yeah, he's clearly more of a two-way player. But that's not like. That's like saying Paul George is better than like Steph Curry just because Paul George.
But I don't think you can put Corey Kispert at the level of Steph Curry.
I mean, in terms of college, I think like it's all relative, obviously, but like.
And I think Jared Butler, relatively in college, is better than Paul George. I think if you could put him as like a Kawhi Leonard if it was college basketball.
You think he's one of the 5 best players in the league right now? Not clearly.
Yeah, clearly I got him there.
Okay, well.
So I guess that's enough of that. It's number 3. I said I had Kispert. You got
Evan Mobley from USC, freshman of the year.
How did his week go? Because I know they lost to Oregon State. Was he?
I can pull up his game log very quickly for that one. But I think this is more of he's partly a defensive decision. He smacked California. California's not great. In the Oregon State loss, he didn't look great. He didn't shoot it a ton that game. It wasn't like he was inefficient. He wasn't like turning it over, especially. I think part of the issue with a big man is it's not necessarily his scoring that's like really driving the team. Like he's a good scorer. He's like an incredibly efficient offensive player right now.
Yeah, he's shooting 6-20 from 2-point range.
Yeah, his true shooting is 639. He's playing some I think very high level defense. I think that's like most of it. I think it's also very important to have like a real big in college who can like offensive rebound, which he's averaging 3 of a game. Who can like roll to the rim and like create a ton of gravity. As you'll see with my next choice, I feel strongly about the gravity of having a big man in the paint in college basketball.
Yeah. So you want to move on to number 4?
Yeah. I there's no real nothing else I have much to say about Evan Mobley. So number 4, I got Kofi Coburn.
Yeah, I got 1 second here. I got Trace Jackson Davis. You kind of flipped me on him. I really like him.
I'm not going to dispute you on Trace Jackson Davis at all. He's been in my top 5 basically every week. I think he's a fairly strong defender.
And he's averaging 20 and 9 basically.
Yeah,
with 2 blocks.
I think he's kind of carrying that Indiana offense a lot in a lot of ways. He's not a huge passer or anything, but he's rebounding the hell out of the ball, averaging almost 9 a game with 8.7. He's doing all of this fairly efficiently. Not compared to the other players in the top 5, but just relative to the rest of the league. I think he's just like kind of a perfect lead player on a team. Because he can play defense and he can carry the offense a little bit.
Definitely.
So I had him at number 5, but I'll talk a little bit about Kofi Coburn. He's an interesting case because he obviously plays on on a team with a player who I also considered for my Wooden Award with Ayo Dosunmu, which isn't true for like most of the other players in the top 5 besides maybe Corey Kispert. Depends on your mileage with Joel Ayayi. But with Kofi Coburn, it's another thing where I think his defense is super valuable, especially compared to Ayo Dosunmu, who I think is kind of a bad defender.
Yeah, definitely.
What I've seen. He just doesn't seem to care that much. He seems very focused on his offensive production. With Kofi Coburn, I think he's constantly making the right decision. He's like a beast when it comes to rebounding. He's averaging 3.3 offensive rebounds a game and 10.3 rebounds a game. I think he's like not the like smartest defender. I don't see him as like a particularly effective NBA defender or anything.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think he dissuades people from coming to the rim because he's a goddamn monster.
He's 7 foot 285.
He's just a beast. You can't, and I think it's pretty hard to like score him in the post.
Yeah, watching him last year at like on our home games.
Oh my god, he's one of those guys where you see him in person, and you're like, what the fuck? Like you just don't see people like that in person like that often. He's a huge dude.
Yeah. So 10 rebounds, 17 points. 1.5 blocks is kind of low, but like as you said, like I feel like people don't really like to come into his.
It's partly that I think
he's also not like very athletic when it comes.
No,
to
he does. I think he's kind of smart about going for it too. I don't think he's like a real like defensive player of the year candidate or anything. which we'll discuss a little bit with your fifth choice. But
Yeah.
I think he's a strong defender, and I think his just offensive impact may actually be larger than Ida DeSuma just because of how efficient he is and how much like attention he draws. Because it's if they get the ball to him in the post, they have to send a double essentially.
Yeah, and this week he had a good week. He had 21 points on 10 shots. So.
Yeah, and he doesn't pass for shit. He's averaging 0.2 assists a game. He clearly doesn't even look for it. But I think even if he's not passing to like someone who gives him the assist, I think by drawing the double teams, by forcing the team to like compromise itself defensively.
Yeah,
I think he's really opening things up for the Illinois offense.
Yeah, so you had Trace at 5, right?
Yeah, so I had Trace at 5. So
yeah, so I'll talk about. I got Jay Huff at 5. Jay Huff, he's not putting up like statistical numbers where you're like blown away, but the man is like the backbone of that like Virginia defense.
Oh yeah.
He's only got 13.3 points per game, but he's in only 6 rebounds, but 2.5 blocks per game, and he does more on the court than like shows up in the stat sheet. He's been like a big part of the Virginia turnaround. He shoots really efficiently with a. Let me find his field goal percentage real quick.
Or true shooting.
True shooting is
716,
which is
absurd.
Extremely effective, and field goals is 698. So, he's not shooting too much, but he's efficient when he does, and this is a man where he'll do what he needs to do to win you the game. And Virginia's a top 10 team now, so I think being the backbone of a defense that's got your team in a top 10 position is really big. Yeah. So, I don't know, you have anything to say about him? Or
Yeah, so what's interesting about that is it's usually, I do think of Virginia as like a defensive first team. And this year, they're not really. They're like a pretty well-balanced team. They're 11th in offense on Ken Palm and 18th in defense. Jay Huff is carrying that defense, though. I cannot deny his like huge defensive impact. If you look at their defensive rating this year, Virginia is actually not that good in terms of just like raw. Like if you ignore Ken Palm, they're 142nd with a 97.3. But with Jay Huff on the court, it's an 89.7, which is like I looked at like 15 players today, and that is like
far and away probably.
Well, it's not far and away because I Western Kentucky, man. You gotta give the Charles Bassey credit, but he's obviously not playing for a team that's anywhere near like the quality of Virginia, so I can't give him as much credit for that. And Nemius Kita at Utah State, but But the point being is Jay Huff is doing this on a high level, even if his raw blocks and stuff aren't really like popping off the page. He's just been a defensive force at Virginia, like every year he's been there. I mean,
that's all you really have to say about him. He's just a defensive backbone, I feel like.
Yep. I'm glad he's playing more minutes. I have more minutes than he was his sophomore his first few years.
It did help that Diakite left this year, so
exactly. He's
now the starting center. He was coming off the bench last year
for a good part of the season. But even last year, I thought he was like doing a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like he was down the stretch playing really well last year. So it's good to see him keeping it up.
My biggest issue with him is, and part of the reason why his stats like blocks and stuff aren't that impressive, is he just can't stay on the court. He plays 23 minutes a game.
Yeah.
It's not really because like he's getting in a huge amount of foul trouble. It just seems like he's just gassed constantly.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good stamina, but...
Yeah, you'll watch a Virginia game and you'll just be like, why isn't Jay Huff on the game anymore? Because when he was on the court, they're dominating. No one wants to shoot on Jay Huff in the league.
All right, we should probably move on to some games.
This week.
All right, so there's not like great games this week, but tonight, well, I guess if you're listening to the podcast, this probably happened yesterday. Texas Tech playing at West Virginia. I think that's a battle of two top 12 teams in the AP poll.
Yep. So,
yeah, that's like finally, as we talked about before, West Virginia needs chances when they can get them, because they haven't been beating these top teams, and they're hosting Texas Tech, so this is their real shot.
Yep, it's like, and as we said, the week's not super strong, so just two teams that are pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, and like, if either of them lose, like I feel like if West Virginia loses, this like says a lot more about them. But even if like Texas Tech loses this, like in a kind of close game, they won't even drop too far.
No,
because it's just like the whole like Big 12, like that's just how it happens. Like you lose to these guys, and you're like, yeah, I mean, they've been beating these teams as well. So,
and it's kind of an opportunity for Texas Tech to make some headway. Although who knows if it's even possible to really break into the top 7 right now. So
yeah, definitely.
Unless we see like a Houston loss, in which case, woo.
Yeah. Speaking of, they're finally playing some. I think they play SMU
On Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be finally a test for them. So best Big Ten game of the week, definitely Iowa going to Illinois. Illinois, another team like West Virginia, who's been playing these top teams and not beating them. I feel like they need this game.
Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they could also match up pretty well. Hopefully, I don't know how Kofi will do against.
I'm excited for the Kofi
Garza.
Coburn, Luka Garza the matchup. That'll be definitely something that we discuss a little bit.
Like those guys could definitely like lock each other down and let Io be like the tipping point.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, I'm not 100% positive they'll put Kofi on him, but it would not surprise me, and he'll definitely be on him for parts of the game. So
Yeah, so that'll be that one's on Friday, and I think the next most interesting. Well, actually, I'll just point out quickly. We won't talk about it, but Alabama's going to Oklahoma. That's two rising teams playing in the Big 12 SEC showdown, and then the one we'll talk about is Kansas going to Tennessee, also on Saturday in the Big 12 SEC showdown. Those are teams that are going in the complete opposite direction as Alabama and Oklahoma.
But they have shown some high level play at parts of the season.
I mean, yeah, they were both like top 10 teams up until this week. So,
and Kansas especially has been very high at certain points.
Yeah, so I think this game will be a big teller of who's one of these teams is a fraud.
I mean, I think it's possible that they're both frauds.
Yeah, no, that's
bit.
definitely fair. But losing this game is going to be tough. These teams are going to be playing hard to hang on to relevancy.
Yeah, they both dropped rocks in Ken Palm, which is always fun to watch happen because it's a predictive stat, and if you somehow massively impacted your Ken Palm, then you're
just saying that you were lying to everyone about it. You're actually saying I'm a fraud when it comes to the Ken Palm stats. So.
Yeah, stuff went pretty badly for you if your Ken Palm is dropping like a rock. That's
yeah. So, yeah, I think those are the games to watch. There's a lot of other games. I might show some on the ticker below, but yeah, thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week as well.
Yep. Thank you very much. Have a great week.